All right, so welcome everybody to our final session of Bacon 2020. As Michael said, this one's a breakout, so if you're looking for the Cognos Analytics session, you're definitely in the right place. I hope everyone's enjoyed their sessions, thus far. Yesterday we had the benefit of a great demo from IBM's offering manager for Cognos Analytics, Rachel Su, who highlighted some of the many exciting features in the latest version of Cognos. Today we're going to take a deeper dive, specifically into the functionality of data modules and data sets and how they're best used to drive your analytics. Guiding us through this modern data modeling hands-on workshop today is going to be PM Square's Director of Technology, Ryan Dolly, who many of you met yesterday when he presented on how to implement a successful analytics strategy. So without further ado, and saving the best for last, of course, Ryan, you ready to share and show us how to lay a solid foundation for analytics using data modules and data sets?
Yeah, absolutely, Craig.
Awesome. All right, take it away.
Thank you. All right, firing up my webcam here. Okay, hello, everybody. Let me know if you can see my webcam and see, I should be sharing my screen here, so I just want to get a confirmation of that. So while I'm waiting on that, someone from PM Square maybe drop it in the Slack. Yes, you can see my screen and my webcam, but okay, cool. So the topic of today's conversation, let me move this down a little bit. Okay, the topic of today's training is going to be data modules. And before we launch into it, and we really have a lot to cover, I was looking over the training I made, and I got a little nervous, like, did I bite off more than we could chew? But we'll get through it. And it's going to cover a lot of good topics related to this. But I talk a lot about this topic. If you attend PM Square events in the past or user groups, like we have the kind of Wisconsin/Midwest user group coming up next week, you'll know that I talk about data modules a lot. I'm kind of like a data module evangelist. And I wanted to share one of the reasons why I talk about it so much. If you look, so here's let me zoom in a little bit so maybe you can see this better. If you look here, you can see my I did this post on LinkedIn on Monday, just of what modeling tool are you using in Cognos? Exclusively data modules and framework manager, or exclusively framework manager. And you can see that we're up to 56% who are using both, which honestly is a big change over the last couple of years. I think if I had done this poll 2 years ago, the number of people using data modules would have been a lot lower. But there's still 26% of at least the people who I'm connected with on LinkedIn who saw this poll who are exclusively using Framework Manager, and only 18% who are exclusively using data modules. So in my mind, this is kind of an evergreen topic. Now, if that is ever not the case, you guys just reach out and let me know, and I'll move on to something else. But for the time being, I think it still remains kind of the most important thing that when it comes to modernizing how we do Cognos, it's all about figuring out how to use data modules in your organization. And that will lead in a lot of ways, especially when paired with kind of the persona-based BI approach that I advocated in yesterday's presentation, to a real kind of the easiest path to modernization of what you're doing. So with that said, in order to get started here, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in the chat a couple things here. Okay, so first, I actually, what I did to make this easiest to share is I published the steps that we're going to be going through to my personal blog. Okay, so if you go to the URL that I just pasted into the chat, you will see the steps broken out that we're going to follow. Now, I'm not going to leave this up forever. It's going to be up for maybe today. I'll leave it up tomorrow too, in case you want to come back and refer to something on it. You should be able to do this in your environment, because everything we're going to be doing is off of the Go Sales samples. So as long as you have those installed, you should be good to follow these steps in the future. In order to access the environment that we're going to be using for training, you'll see there's actually a IP address included in the instructions, but I will paste that in here as well. Now, this is not going to ask you to log in, okay? We created a really beefy Cognos server, 96 cores and 768 gigabytes of RAM, with an equally beefy a SQL Server database running behind it in order to make this happen. So so go ahead and hit that server. You shouldn't be asked to authenticate, okay? And what we're gonna wanna do when you get there is go ahead and create a folder, because since there's no authentication, typically when we do when I do training, it's, hey, save to your My Folders, right? But since there's no authentication in this case, you're not gonna have a My Folders. So what I'd like you to do is under Bacon Users, okay, go ahead and create a new folder. What you're gonna do, let me turn on mouse track here. Might make it a little easier to follow where I'm clicking. So show mouse click, and we'll do a spotlight on the, let's do that, okay. So when you go to the environment, what you should be able to do, if I know some of you in the audience are maybe not as familiar with Cognos, so when you log in, what you're gonna see, if you look, you'll see this team content here, okay? That is that's the kind of the folders where all the publicly available in Cognos content is gonna be. I'm gonna want you to expand that, okay? And then look in Bacon Users, and then click this plus button right here, okay? And create a folder and give it a name that is going to be your initials. So in this case, RPD or my initials, then dash your favorite movie. So I don't know if it's my favorite movie, but maybe my favorite movie is this old Soviet sci-fi movie called Solaris. It's really good. And then your favorite color, mine is green. And then when you hit return, it's going to create a folder. So I can see some folders being created here. Some of you have followed the standard that I laid out. Some of you haven't, but take a minute to go ahead and create a folder there. And that is where we're going to save all of our content. Okay. So theoretically, this, like, if someone else has your initials and the same favorite movie as you and the same favorite color as you, let us know. I'll try to put you in touch with that person, because it is probably someone who you should get to know, because you've just been introduced to your soulmate or something like that. So we should have uniqueness coming out of this based on that. So I'm going to pause here for a second and just make sure that everyone can get into this environment and is able to create a folder, okay? So I see them starting to fill up. Now I know when I look at the number of attendees we have right now, that we have a lot more people than I see folders here. So I'm just going to pause for a second and make sure and ask that the moderators check as well, make sure everybody can actually get into this environment and is able to create a folder. And as we're going through this, I would encourage you to definitely ask your questions, and I will pause occasionally and ask the moderators to feed me questions so I can answer them kind of on the fly. So rather than just hold them all till the end, like we did during yesterday's session, I would like you to, ask your questions, and I'm gonna try to remember to pause every once in a while and field your questions to give people time to catch up. Because if you look at what you see on this site, you'll see there's a lot of steps for us to go through to do this training. But we're gonna cover a lot of data module related topics. While you're at my website, of course, bookmark it and make sure to check it out again in the future. I will admit I haven't posted anything in a little while, but I do a lot of posts, and they're honestly mostly about data modules and data sets. So if this is the type of content you're interested in, you'll get a lot of value out of my personal blog and out of the PM Square blog, which you should check out as well. Okay, so let's get started. So what are we going to do here? And let me just look one more time and see that we've got, okay, yeah, we're starting to fill in here. All right. If you are struggling with this, let us know, and we can, and we'll try to help you out. That's why we have the moderators here. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually look at data sets. Okay. A data set can be sourced from a lot of different things. well, I shouldn't say that. A data module can be sourced from a lot of different things. A data set is going to be sourced from one of two things, okay? And that is going to be either a, a framework manager package, a data module, or a transformer cube, okay? I guess if you have, that would be the three. If you have dynamic cubes, I'm sure you can source them off of that, although I've never done it. But those are the main ways to do it, okay? And what we're gonna do for today's exercise is if you go to team content and look at I'm looking at this instruction, I'm realizing it's wrong. Go into samples. Is it in here? Yeah, it's not in there. Okay, go into samples and then models, and you're gonna see this Go Data Warehouse query, okay? So again, that's samples, models, Go Data Warehouse query. And what you can see if you click on the More button, and I'm gonna reference the More button a lot over the course of this presentation. So you can see it right there. It's those three little dots, and that appears all throughout the Cognos UI is the More button, okay? When you click the More button, you can see you have different options to build things, and one of the options you have here is to build a data set. So go ahead and click Create Data Set, and that is going to bring you into the data set builder. The data set builder is going to look very familiar to report authoring to you if you are familiar with Cognos Analytics report authoring, and that's because it is Cognos Analytics report authoring. And over time, if you've been using it for a while, you know that it's become more and more like Cognos Analytics report authoring as we go. So you have here a list of insertable objects. This is that package that we just chose, that Go Data Warehouse query. And what you're going to want to do is go ahead and explore this and grab here under the insertable objects. We're going to look under the sales and marketing namespace, okay? And then expand the sales target query. So that's sales and marketing, the sales and marketing folder here rather, and then expand the sales target query namespace. And that's what we're going to use to build a data set. Now, why are we doing this, and what are we actually doing behind the scenes? So why we're doing it is for two main reasons why I do this. The first is to simplify presentation. So if I were to say I'm building something for self-service, right? If I were to present this, just give access to this Go Data Warehouse query package to end users, a lot of them are just not going to be able to figure it out. I mean, that's just reality, right? There's a lot of tables that are repeated across namespaces and tables that exist between, different folders, and they're just going to look at it and say, right? How do I know what timetable to choose? It's in here 25 times. So to simplify the presentation, you can build a data set that is going to take just certain elements that you want out of this and present those to the end users. It gives you the ability to simplify the presentation and really kind of create a logical grouping or a tailored grouping of certain items for your end users to use. The second reason I would do this is performance. They perform a lot better than going directly against the database in many situations. So even if I had a package or a data module that was clean and easy to understand, I still may find myself creating a data set off of it in order to really juice performance for self-service, because your end users are not going to accept poor performance when it comes to self-service. They're going to bail right away if every time they make a tweak to a dashboard, they have to wait 15 seconds. So this is your shortcut to getting around that in many instances, not all, but many. So what we're going to do to create this data set is you're going to go ahead and if you expand the retailer sales target query from the namespace, yep. Yeah, so under retailers, okay, grab a region, retailer region, and you can control click these, retailer country, retailer name, retailer code, which is going to be in this codes folder. So do note that right here, retailer code is in the codes folder. And go ahead and just, you can control click them or you can drag them one at a time, either way, but just bring them over and nest them where it says add data here, okay? And what that's doing is right now we're kind of building a data set specification, right? Then you're gonna wanna do the same thing, look at employee by region, and we're gonna grab employee name and employee position name. So those are gonna be, employee name is here, and employee position name is down at the bottom. So there and there, and nest those in. And then we're gonna look at time, some time elements, okay? So minimize that, look at the time table, and from here we're gonna pull year, month key, month, and month numeric. So year, month key, month, and month numeric, and nest those in there. And finally, from the sales target fact table, grab sales target and drag that in. So at this point, we've built a kind of a specification. And what this is going to do, what we've really done here, is we have gone ahead and built kind of, you can think of this as a table. When we run this data set, it's going to run a query, extract data from the underlying database, which in this case is a SQL Server database, and it's going to load it into Cognos. The way it's going to do that is it's going to create an Apache Parquet file that is going to be located in the Cognos content store and transferred to the Cognos application database at runtime when someone needs it. And then it gets loaded into the memory of that application server. So that's you just think about it as we're building a table, and you'll see as we go through that we are going to treat this like a table once we import it into a data module. So again, what we're doing here is we're pulling these individual fields out of this package, and we're really building a table out of it that we're going to use in a data module going forward. Now, if you see up here in the corner, you'll see this page design. This will allow us to switch over to page preview mode, which is going to show us the actual data. Now, I normally work in page design mode because it can be slow sometimes. Like a lot of times, especially if you're building a data set because you have an issue with poor performance you have an issue with poor performance, so you're trying to make it faster. Well, when you're building the data set, building this screen is going to be slow, right? The problem you're trying to solve is slowness. So I will often build these just like when you're building a report. I build it in design mode, switch over to preview mode. Another thing to note here down in the corner, you'll see this summarize detailed values, this button. Take a look here and you can see, just look at these numbers. These are summarized values. So the actual underlying database is at a lower level of detail. And by clicking this button, this is important to understand. Do you want to roll up the data to a higher level of detail or not? When you click this button, it will roll up the data to the level of detail that you've put in here. So in this case, the level of detail that we have is really, kind of set by the time elements and the location elements that we've brought in. But the underlying data actually occurs kind of, at not at the month level, but maybe at the day level, for example. So this is one way that you can help make your performance better, is by leaving this checked. As long as you don't need day level detail, it will roll the data up to the month level, which means fewer rows. Fewer rows means better performance, generally speaking. The next thing we'll want to take a look at, things that you want to do. I guess I'll just pause there real quick. So one question I get asked a lot is, how can I improve data set performance? And that's what I'm going to launch into right next, but I'm going to pause and just see if there are any questions at this point.
Hey, Ryan. So you touched on this briefly, so maybe reiterate or elaborate on this one, but the question is, does creating data sets then save the data itself in the Cognos content store or on the Cognos server?
Yeah, the answer is yes. Does it do one or the other? Yes. So what it does, and this is the same thing that happens when you upload an Excel file. So in detail, okay, when we save and load this, it is going to execute a query that runs on the query service. It is then going to take that data and it's going to store it in an Apache Parquet file, which is a columnar file format, highly compressed, in the Cognos Content Store database, okay? So now it's in the Content Store database, and what is going to happen at that point is it sits in the Content Store database until someone comes in through the Cognos UI and does something that requires it. Basically, issues a query that requires that data set. And at that time, what's going to happen is Cognos will, so someone comes in through Cognos and they run a report or something that requires this data set. The application server that their session is connected to is going to say, someone has requested this data set. It's going to check locally to say, do I have a copy of it locally on that application server? If the answer is no, it will fetch it out of the content store and put it into the data folder of your Cognos install. Okay, so if you actually look at your Cognos install, there's a folder called data. It will put the data set there, and then it will load it into the memory of the application server. So when you hear people say data sets are in memory, that's how it gets into the memory, okay? It's loaded in at runtime. Now, it's not going to stay in there forever. After a certain amount of time, it will purge it out of memory, but that copy is going to stay locally on the application server, okay? The next time someone comes in and needs that data set, it's going to do a check. It's going to look at the local copy it has and the copy that exists in the content store and see which one is more recent. If there is a newer version in the content store, it will repeat that process where it will pull the data out of the content store, put it locally. If there is not a newer version, it will not fetch it from the content store. It will just use the local copy. So the logical questions that I get asked out of this are, well, do I need to worry about these blowing up my content store, or do I need to worry about them blowing up the disk available on the application server? And the answer there is mostly no. Parquet files are very highly compressed. So as you'll see later on in the training, you can actually see how big these are on disk. And they're generally not that big. Now, I'm not going to say it's never going to be a problem, but I would not worry too much about it out of the gate. Only after this methodology really takes off and you find yourself using it all the time and you've got a ton of these things would I start to worry about it. Very good question though. Okay, so hopefully everybody is caught up with where we are at this point. So what I'm on step 20. Well, actually, it's renumbered here. So what step am I on here? What you have and what I have is a different numbering scheme, which is not ideal. I'll switch over to use your instructions. Okay, so if we look at what step are we on here? So step 22. Click year column and select edit layout sorting. So you have a lot of functionality if you're a report author. As of 11.17, you really have a lot of functionality that you're used to in report authoring here. I'm not going to go through it in today's training, but I just want to show you, for example, you can actually edit the query, the detail filters, the summary filters. You can do this type of thing. Okay, I want a second query and I want to join, right? This is the type of stuff that really makes this a very powerful tool. As far as getting exactly the data set that you want. Now, in the past, I probably, for those of you who have attended our training in the past or been, our longtime Bacon attendees, I have taught you to do these types of things in order to get the data set that you want, but by doing like a recursive data module where, you build two data sets, you put them in your data module, then you join them together in your data module and build a third data set on top of them. You may still find a good reason to do that, but a lot of times now you can accomplish what you're looking for by just building queries in the data set builder. It makes the management of this much easier. Now, I don't have step-by-step instructions on how to do this in today's exercise, but it's here. Check it out and make the most of it. But let me go back to the page. Okay. But what I do have step-by-step instructions for, and this comes both features that you use in report authoring and ways to make this perform better, is if you click on the year here, you can see that we can click on sorting and choose edit layout sorting. And what are we doing here? What we're doing is data sets perform best when they you don't have extraneous rows or columns, so don't just throw every column under the sun into it. Only throw things in here that you know you're going to need. And when you don't have rows that you are not going to need, right? And when you sort it by the columns that are most likely to be used to filter in dashboards or reports. So in this case, like very common ones would be year, for example. We know that there's going to be a lot of filtering by year, and so we want to filter this in order for those year or other time elements. So if you follow the instructions, you'll see we're going to grab year and month numeric to detail sort, okay? And then you can click OK, right? And now it has sorted year by year and month, right? So now this will help improve performance anytime someone uses the year filter, because the way a columnar database works is it doesn't read across like your normal SQL database does. It reads down, okay? So when you sort these columns in the order that they're going to be appearing most commonly and filtered on most commonly, you're going to get much better performance out of it. The next thing you're going to want to do is, if you look at the instructions, click on, say, position name here, and then go create custom filter. And this is going to open our conditional filtering, where you're going to want to say keep these values and contains sales, okay? Now this would be, say we're building this to do a sales analysis. This data contains more than just sales employees, but we're doing a sales analysis. And so, maybe we want to filter out the non-sales employees, for example. You can go ahead and do that. So at this point, we've reduced the number of rows, we've filtered or sorted by the items that we want to sort on, and we might be, it's time to actually build this data set. So, yep, so by sales. Okay, now at this point, if you click save up here in the corner, and you can see save right there, and choose save and load data, you're going to want to save this and give it a name, okay? So navigate to the folder you created in Bacon Users and call this, let's see, what did I call this? Sales Target Data Set, okay? Sales Target Data Set, and click Save. Now, this is what is going to happen is you'll see your data set, sales target data set is loading. That process I described earlier just occurred. So in that span of time, what happened was the data was taken out of, the query was run, the Parquet file was generated, and it was stored in the content store. That all just happened in that span of time, okay? So you can go ahead and close out of this and take a look at the, I guess I did the instructions a little out of order, but I'll show you the other option that you have to save these. If you navigate to that location, So again, that's you should save it in the Bacon users folder that you created for yourself. And you click the More menu again and choose Properties. You will see, and this is what the finding and loading a data set section covers. Well, actually, before we look at the properties, click the More button and you'll see right here the refresh option. So you can save and load, or you can just save and come out here and refresh. Both options work. I find myself more commonly just saving and then coming here and refreshing it. And it's because like years ago, I was told that that was technically faster. And I don't know if that's still the truth. Honestly, I don't know if it was the truth when I was told it, but it's just what I've always done. And if you're following step by step what I wrote out, that's what you'll see there. Right, so the reload button or the refresh button, it used to say reload, now it says refresh. You will see there, okay? Now, the other thing you can access through the More menu is the properties. So if you click More and then Properties, it's the last option that you have right there. And expand Advanced and scroll down. You can see here the size on disk, the number of rows, the number of columns, the time to refresh, okay? And who it was last refreshed by. In this case, it will say anonymous because we've all logged into this environment anonymously. You can also see up top when it was created, when it was last modified, and when it was last refreshed. So very important to understand that you can come here and take a look at this data. So I'll pause there to see if there are any questions and make sure, why don't you, you should have the ability to, there's like a raise hand option. Can I go ahead and get a raised hand out of everybody who is has caught up and it kind of is where we are? When you are caught up and you are where we are, raise your hand just to let me know. And then I'll pause and just see, Craig, if there are any additional questions at this point.
Yeah, we've got a couple, Ryan. Two good ones here. The first one is, can you have more than one data source when creating a data set?
You know, I've never tried. Let's try. So once it's built, of course, you can come in and edit it. And I'm going to guess the answer here is going to be no, but that is really me guessing. So let's go ahead and give this a second to load in. And can I do that? Ooh, it looks like it's going to let me. Sometimes IBM surprises me in a good way. Okay, yeah, so if I were to grab Seiko sales query, yep, they're both in there. Now, I know coming up soon on the roadmap is going to be the ability, you see you can add multiple packages in here. I'm going to guess that you can't add multiple data modules because you can't do that in reporting today. But I do know that that is definitely something that is coming up soon in the on the roadmap. So cool. Well, whoever asked that question, thank you. We all learned something there. Okay, was there another question, Craig?
Yeah, we'll do one more. Is there a way to quickly review the column namespaces so that we know we have all the columns from the correct tables?
I'm not 100% certain I understand that question. Craig, what do you make of it?
I believe that's probably referring to a quick and easy way to make sure that you've got all of your tables from a particular, or I'm sorry, all of your columns from a particular table in your data module already. Is there a kind of a quick, easy way to gauge that?
So as far as a quick, easy way, I can't think of like a slam dunk way to like make sure that you have them all other than just, kind of eyeballing it here. I mean, if you want to get into it, you can go open report or copy report to clipboard. Like if you want to do, say you're building a big one and you want to do a, like, oh, do I have everything I need? Or you're looking for something in particular, you can paste this report into, say, a Notepad. I just happen to have Notepad++ open because I use it all the time. But you know, you can, like, all the same stuff you can do in reporting, where you could copy and paste and like do a search through here. Would be one way to do it. But generally speaking, you know, I would look here, or I would look at the query itself and say, okay, am I missing anything here? Is kind of how I go about doing it. All right. So moving on with the training. Now there's a section on dashboard creation. I'm thinking for the amount of time that we have here, I'm roasting here, so bear with me. For the amount of time that we have here, I do have a section on actually building a dashboard off of this. I think in order to make sure we get all of our content done, I'm probably going to skip that. Or I'll go through it really quickly, just to kind of show you, like, this is usable now, okay? So a lot of times people are like, well, now there's a lot of questions about, okay, I have a data set, do I have to put it in a data module or not? Should I or not? You do not have to, it's usable now, but it's not usable in report authoring until it's in a data module, okay? It is only usable in dashboards and explore and stories. So if you click on this and you choose create dashboard, you'll see that it pops you into the dashboard building screen. And I think the instructions tell you to select this template, and you click OK. And then once you're in here, it will take a second to load in. And then once you're in here, you can go ahead and, I wonder if this slowness, this little bit of slowness, I think is actually on my local machine. Dashboards do require a little bit of local machine horsepower compared to other things that you might use in Cognos. And so anyway, if you click on the assistant and type in here, show average sales target or country, and then click return, it is going to, or rather enter, it is going to generate a series of visualizations for you that it thinks meet the requirements of what you typed in. And you can just click and drag this and nest it here. It's going to go ahead and fill in that section, right? So we're not going to dive really much deeper. The instructions will then tell you to, you know, to nest a filter up here and that sort of stuff. I'm not necessarily going to walk through that right now for the sake of time. However, you know, you can come in here and when we pause, what I would encourage you to do is just save this off into your personal folder as employee target dashboard. And feel free to jump back in here and play around during sections when I'm answering questions or something like that to get a feel for kind of how what we're building looks in a dashboard. But for the sake of time and to really give you the maximum value on data sets and modules, we're not going to spend much more time in any report building interface today. So let me just save this guy in here. Okay. Okay, so now how do I combine a data set with other data sources? Okay, I've got this data set, I can build a dashboard off of it, it's cool, but now I want to join it with other things. The way we're going to do that is by clicking you see the new button down here. Okay, this is how you build new anything but a data set. The only way to access a data set is to click the more button next to an existing model of some type. I wish you could do more new data set, but you can't. And I've been making this argument to IBM for a while, and so if you could make it too, that would be swell, because maybe we could get data set added to this. But you want to do more new and then data module. And then it's going to ask you to select a data source. And what you're going to want to do is click here on the team content and go to navigate to the user folder that you created for yourself. And go ahead and choose sales target data set. Okay. That is going to bring us into the data module building interface. So here you can see sales target data set. You can, if you want to click on sales target data set, you'll notice grid, the grid tab is selected. That is actually going to load in a preview of the data, which is really handy. So as we're doing data modeling, for those of you maybe who are really familiar with Framework Manager but haven't messed around with this much, you will see that you get really quick feedback to what you're doing. Like as you model, every step we take, this is going to reload and show us the result of our modeling changes, which is really handy. Okay. We'll walk through other elements of this UI as we go, but the next thing you're going to want to do, we want to add additional sources to this. So if you go ahead and you see this little plus icon right here, that's the Add Sources and Tables button. So if you go ahead and click that, you can see add more tables or add new sources. We're going to want to add new sources. And this time, I want you to click here on the Data Servers and Schemas button. And now you're going to choose Go Sales EDW. So it's this Great Outdoors Warehouse is what you're going to choose, okay? And then from here, you choose the Go Sales DW schema, okay? So what this is a data server. It is like a data source, but for the Cognos 10 world, it can only be JDBC, and it's made through the Manage menu rather than the old Cognos Admin menu, but it's essentially the same thing. And then you're going to choose this schema and click OK. Once you click OK, you're going to be greeted with a screen that says, do you want to select tables or discover related tables? So just to check this out, click Discover Related Tables and then Next. And we're not going to use this, but I wanted to show you how it works, okay? This is a word cloud of things that Cognos found in the database that it thinks might be useful. So maybe you want to know about product and expense and profit, okay? You click those three items and then you choose Next, and it's going to generate a model proposal for you based on what you put in there. So you can see here is my model proposal. It's quite a model proposal. And you can see here all the tables that were involved in the model proposal. And if you are good with that, you click OK, and it will build a data module based on that. Now, don't do that right now. I just wanted to show it to you, okay? How this works. You can get additional model proposals if you want. You can, but you can't really refine it. So you can't say here like, oh, this is a cool proposal, but actually I don't want these three tables. This is an all or nothing thing, okay? We're not going to do that for today's exercise. I just wanted to show you what it looks like. So click Previous a couple times to get back to this screen. And once you're at this screen, you're going to want to choose Select Tables. And you're going to want to choose the Go Time Dim. Now you can navigate to that, or you can choose Search and say Go Time, and you'll see the Go Time Dim right there. So click OK. You can click Refresh if you want, and that will show you a preview of the data in that table. And once you're satisfied that that's the actual table you want, you click OK. And you'll see that it actually loads the table into our data module. And you'll see the table's been added here. And if you click over to the Relationship tab, you can see both of the tables available there. I'm going to close out of this other Cognos and close out of AWS here just to try to reclaim a little bit of performance on my local machine. Okay. And maybe we'll close out of that guy too. All right, so I'm at step 5. Okay, now under adding additional data sources, step 5, you'll see step 6 asks you to repeat this process to add a couple more sources in. So what we're going to add in here is we're going to go again back up to the Add New Sources menu, and we're going to choose this time the Go Sales, the Great Outdoors Sales Server, and we're going to choose Go Sales RT schema. Click OK. And you're going to grab retailer table, retailer site table, and retailer type table. So retailer, retailer site, retailer type. And then click OK. And so you can see it automatically joined those. Cognos will automatically join tables under certain circumstances. If the underlying database has, foreign key, primary key relationships noted in the database, a lot of times Cognos will be able to replicate those joins in automatically for you, which is nice. It's not always going to get it right. It's not always going to do what you would have done. So you're still going to want to look at it, but they've really come a long way in making this work. And then the final thing we're going to want to add, and normally I would have you upload an Excel file, but for the sake of simplicity today, I already uploaded it for you. So if you go Add New Sources again and navigate to Team Content Bacon, Team Content Bacon files, okay, here in Bacon files, you can see this sales data Excel CSV. You're going to want to add that to your model as well. So now what do we have in here? We have a data set. We have a table from one database, 3 tables from a separate database, and an Excel file, all in our data module, okay? At this point, I'm going to want you to save it, and you're probably going to want to save, be safe and save often. So save this into your personal folder in the Bacon Users folder, and go ahead and call it Sales Analysis Data Module. And click Save. Okay. Now I'm going to pause there, and let's do the same thing we did last time. Show of hands for when you are all caught up, and then I'll pause and see, Craig, if there are any questions I can answer at this point.
Yeah, here's a great one. Other than ease of use or visibility for other users of a data module, are there any benefits to limiting the fields brought in from a table in the source versus bringing in the whole table?
Yes, so there's ease of use and all of that, like that you mentioned. Those are great reasons. The final reason I would add is that I do find that this user interface, Framework Manager can handle a lot of tables. Like I've seen FM models. I think the biggest FM model I ever saw had maybe 12,000 tables or something like that. It was nuts. I would not advise you do that, but it's doable, okay? Now that model, you had to open it and then like leave for lunch. And then when you came back, maybe it was ready for you to use, but it was possible. You're not gonna get 12,000 tables in here. So one reason I would say don't put tables that you're not sure you're gonna need or fields that you don't think you're gonna need into this is because the UI itself is going to bog down. I honestly don't know an exact number. I would, I know Sonia Fournier is watching. Sonia, why don't you shoot to me in Slack, or even, I don't know if you have audio, you could even answer the question, how many tables you've run into before the UI starts getting slow. But You don't put stuff in here you don't need. And I would also say, you think of these, most of the framework manager models I have built and I have seen built, the way you think about them is like, I have a database and I'm building something that reflects the database. That is not how we go about data modules. You need to think about, and this really goes back to kind of that persona-based exercise I talked about yesterday. You need to go back to thinking about, okay, why am I building this module? What is the purpose of it from a business perspective? And only put the things in it that you need from a business perspective. That would be the way I would advocate you do this. Now, I fully recognize that you're not always going to be able to do that, and sometimes you're just going to build a data module that reflects the structure of the underlying database. So don't feel like you're doing something wrong if you did that, right? Or you know, Ryan told me not to do it. If you need to do it, do it. But what I would recommend is think about the business purpose and only put things in here that meet the business purpose. Let me check Slack to see if Sonia slacked me an answer, because I know Sonia has built some pretty gnarly data modules. It's also, she lives in Halifax, so it might be dinner time for her. In any case, you can definitely get many dozens or even hundreds of tables into a module, but it will start bogging down. The UI will at some point, so watch out for that. I'm checking the show of hands here, and I don't see a ton of hands up. So either people have forgotten to put their hands up or they haven't caught up yet. I'll answer one more question and then we'll move on.
Yeah, here's another good one, Ryan. How long does a data set stay in memory, and do we have any control over the timeout of that?
Yes. Do you have, okay, so if you Google, what is it called? Cognos? Okay, Cognos Compute Service. You can see I've searched for this before. What you're going to find here are the settings that control things like the timeout interval, right? On a data set, the loading policy on a data set, the max heap size. You actually are definitely going to want to set the max heap size. The default is 4 gigs. I'm going to tell you that most of my customers, I up this to 8 or even 16 when they start doing a lot of complex data set stuff. But this right here tells you how to set these settings. Now, can you tell it how long it persists in memory? I don't actually know that there's a setting for that, but there are settings for lots of other stuff. So if you go to this, I'll punch this into the chat here so you guys can go look at it yourselves. It will walk you through how to do it. The way to do it is it's actually it's in the advanced settings of the query service through the old administration console. So not the easiest place to get to, but that's where it is. Okay, I am going to move on with today's exercises. So we've got our data sources in here, okay? And you should have the sales data Excel CSV, the retailer table, retailer site table, retailer type table, go time dim, and sales target data set all in here, and you should have saved it. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to look at the we're going to do some data cleanup and prep and simplify our table structures and build some relationships, okay? So the first thing we're gonna wanna do is if you take a look at the Go Time Dim, you're gonna notice that there's a lot of fields in here, okay? Like a lot. And a lot of these represent languages that we're not necessarily gonna use. So in this case, the first thing I would do, and this is just a best practice, is I go through, when you import a table, a lot of times, you know, you're getting the whole table. Well, maybe you don't want the whole table, and so you're going to grab month DE. I apologize to our German speakers in the audience, and scroll down to weekday TR. And if you shift click, it will highlight all of those fields. And then once again, you're going to want to look at the More menu right there, click it, and choose remove. Now there's a question, should I remove or should I hide? And I tend to remove because prevents, it reduces the visual clutter. If you hide it, it will leave it in, but your end users aren't going to be able to see it. I tend to remove. So you're going to want to go ahead and do that, okay? You're also going to want to take a look at the Go Time Dim, and you can see current month, month number, current quarter. These are all identified as measures. These are not measures, and we don't want them to be reflected as measures. So if you can control click all of these. And then look up in the upper right-hand corner. This icon is going to be your properties window. So you click on the properties window, and it will open the properties for all of these items, not just one. And here we can change the usage from measure to attribute and represents to time. Now you'll notice that you can then choose, well, is it year, quarter, season, month, all of this stuff. We're not going to do that today. I will admit to not being 1,000% sure, like what difference does it make whether I set it to year or month. I don't know like for sure that it is making a huge difference right now. It may come into play for the AI features of Cognos, how it looks at seasonality. It may come into play there. I wouldn't be surprised if it does, but I will actually check with IBM to say like, hey guys, because this has been expanding over time where they're putting in season and hour and minute and second. Those didn't all used to be in there. So they're putting it in for a reason, but I have not actually observed it making a whole lot of difference. Maybe someone in the chat knows. Okay. So you're going to want to change the measures and then get rid of the unnecessary fields and save your work at this point. So that covers a little bit of data prep and cleanup. There's a lot of other stuff we could do in here, when it comes to changing types and changing formats, and we'll get to some reformatting later on. But we've got a lot to get to, so I will take our, we're not going to go through every data cleanup and data prep feature that's in here. We will hit some of the highlights going forward. But if you look at the more menu, you'll see, you can reformat the data, you can clean the data. So a lot of really, excuse me, powerful options in here, very easy to interact with. So that takes us up through the data cleanup and prep section. Next, you're going to we're looking at simplified table structure. This is something I do a lot, and I really advocate that really gets to the heart of how do you simplify things and make them easy for your end users to consume. And also, what is the best practice for doing this now that we live in if you're coming from Framework Manager where you're used to building the database layer and the business layer and the presentation layer and the DMR layer, and people came up with all sorts of other layers over the years that they liked to throw in there. One second. Apologies, my phone started going off there and I realized I didn't have it nearby. Okay, you're going to, this really gets to the, what you're gonna wanna do in order to, what do we do in the new world compared to Framework Manager when we used to have these layers, okay? So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is click up here. So there's a more button next to the data module itself, okay? So you're gonna wanna click that and then choose table in the new menu that appears. And here you've got the select tables option, so choose select table, and what you're gonna wanna choose are the 3 retailer type tables, okay? Well, the 3 retailer tables. So retailer, retailer site, and retailer type. And you'll notice that all of your other options have become grayed out except create a view of tables. Now, if I had only 2 selected, create a join view would become an option. If I had only 1 selected, I could create a copy. So it is actually it restricts what you can choose to the things that are actually possible based on the types of tables that you have. It won't let you make a union out of tables that cannot be unioned, for example, because they don't contain the same columns. So you're going to want to select again, retailer, retailer site, and retailer type. And then you need to, even though it's the only option, you need to click on create a view of tables. So it's highlighted in blue. Then you're going to choose next. The first thing you're going to want to do here, and I forget this all the time, is give this a name. Okay, so let's call this retailer dim. Now, the reason you want to do this is when we're all done and we click finish, it is going to create a table, and that table is going to give you a, everything here has like a name and a label, or a label and a name or identifier, and the name will be, whatever was up here. So you always got to remember to do this, because you don't want the identifier, meaning the thing that Cognos is referencing it under the hood, that you're going to need to type into queries or calcs when you're building them, to be, retailer-view-1 or whatever the heck it was. Okay, so rename it to retailer dim. And then you're going to want to go through and select the following items. So expand all of these, and I would uncheck. You can see here, you can uncheck this. So it will uncheck we'll uncheck the things we have selected. And then what you're going to want to add is retailer code, company name, retailer city, province, state, country code, and type name EN. Now, if you click refresh here, it will give you a preview of what does the table I'm building look like. And so you can see exactly what the table we're building looks like. And then once you're done, go ahead and click finish. And now it'll bring us into the custom tables view, which is really helpful, this custom tables tab, for understanding what tables you have built and how they flow into one another. So if you click back, you'll see it lists all the custom tables you've made. And then if you click on an individual custom table, it will show you how it's built. Now, custom tables can flow into custom tables, can flow into custom tables. So you can have a very complex web here of built up custom tables and things flowing into one another. And this view makes it very nice and easy to understand how that is working. Okay. So now we've simplified our table structure. You can see we have this table here, retailer dim, and the icon actually looks a little different than the other icons we have here. So that's telling us that this is a custom table rather than a table that comes directly out of a data source. That takes us up through the simplified table structure here. Now you'll see in this next section, create relationships, why we did this, okay? So now it's time to actually build joins. And rather than joining these three tables that I imported in to the other tables, I am going to join the retailer dim, and I'm going to leave these tables unjoined. And Cognos is able to figure all this out. And when it builds the retailer dim, anytime you reference the retailer dim, Cognos knows that the retailer dim is actually generated by these three underlying tables. So what you're going to want to do is click on the sales data Excel CSV in the go time dim. So sales data Excel CSV, go time dim. You control click the two of them. And now you could click them here. You could click them on the relationship, and you could even choose just one of the tables. Like if you look at, say, just the sales data Excel table and look at its properties, you will see that there's a relationships tab. So 3 ways to do this, but it all works out the same way. If I click add relationship here, it's going to open this create a relationship screen. Whereas if I control click the two, like it tells you in your instructions, and then click the more menu and choose relationship, it will get me into the same screen, okay? Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is ensure that the one indicator is under go time dim. So you can see here we've got the one indicator. There's the indicators I'm talking about. We've got the 1 and the N, and the N is under go time dim. We want the 1 under go time dim and the N under sales data Excel. The reason for this is sales data Excel is going to act as our fact in this model. And in Cognos, you always want the N under your fact, okay? Yeah, that just governs the generation of SQL, and you're going to get not great results if you don't get this part right. So if you look in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see this little menu or gear icon. This controls how the join is actually built. So is it in an inner or outer join? What is the cardinality of the join? And this join optimization governs multi-data source performance optimizations, which we actually could use, like would make sense to use in this case, but we're not going to put one on during today's training. However, this is for when you've got, hey, I got this table in SQL Server and I got this other table in, this other table that I built using the new API connector, and I want to optimize the performance. That's what this will do here, those cross data source optimizations. What you're going to want to do right now is you're going to want to select many to one instead of one to many. You'll see as soon as you do that up here, the 1 and the N swap, okay? Now you want to choose the actual join criteria, which in this case is going to be what? Day key. So you can see day key here and day key here. When you click on it, it shows you the actual values that you can scroll through and get a little preview. What is it I'm joining on? And then you choose match selected columns, and it will, and then refresh, and it will actually run the join, run the SQL of this join and show you your results. So you can see here, I've kind of got the purple and the turquoise, and you can see here, here's the purple table, which is table 1. Here's the turquoise table, which is table 2. And you can actually sometimes spot like weird join things that you've done here just by eyeballing it. Now at this point, you can click OK, and it will build that relationship. And you can see here's the relationship between go time dim and the sales data Excel CSV. So now what the instructions are going to ask you to do is build the rest of these joins, okay? And one thing I do is, because it would be nice if there were like, if I could create areas on the screen, or like boxes or something to box these together, but you can't. So one thing I always do is I move, when I have one of these custom tables, I move the tables that had created the custom table next to it. So I can at least kind of like, so when I remember, I come in and I look at this, I'm like, okay, these guys belong together, right? Now what you're going to want to do is repeat the process that we just did to create 4 additional joins here. So we're going to create one between go time dim and the sales target data set based on all right, you're going to create new relationship. And this is going to be based on the month key. So here's month key, okay? And then match selected column, refresh, and okay. So I look at the instructions. This looks like I didn't actually give you the keys. So I'll put that in here. So you're going to want to join on month key. So put that in chat. Okay. And then when it comes to sales target data set to the retailer dim, go time dim, Ryan, retailer dim. Here you're going to want to join on retailer code. And again, you want to make sure that the N is underneath sales target data set and the 1 is under retailer dim. So in this case, I'm going to want to swap that. Now you don't actually have to refresh this. If you know the join you got is good, you can just click OK and it will go ahead and do that. And again, that join is on retailer code, so I'll drop that in here. Click OK. And the final join is going to be between sales data Excel and retailer dim. And here you're going to want to do the same thing, retailer code. Okay. So I'll go ahead and pause there. We'll do the same thing. Put up your hand if you're all caught up to where I am. And then otherwise, Craig, I'll take some questions.
Cool. All right. So what sort of data sources can you use to create data sets?
Well, that's a great question. So you can do, really what it boils down to is, the way to think about this is you've got a data source and then some form of model and then a data set, okay? So that model can be a transformer cube, it can be a framework manager model, it can be a data module, any of that, okay? So what can you use? So anything you can build a framework manager, any type of data source you can use to build a framework manager model or a data module, you can use to build a data set. Specifically in the Cognos 11 world, if you look here, this is the manage menu. Now don't go messing around in here, please. But if you look in this menu under data server connections, and then you click the plus button, you will see all of the different types that are available. So there's a lot of types that are available in here. You know, Athena, Redshift, stuff I barely know what it is. Denodo, no offense to Denodo. I haven't happened to run across them a whole lot. Salesforce you can connect to. Snowflake, incredibly popular. Snowflake I've seen lately. Postgres, that connection to Incorda, for those of you who went to the Incorda training session and were impressed by that. Incorda to outside systems looks like Postgres. So this would be what you would use to connect Cognos to Incorda. Anything you see in here, and really anything in the world, thanks to this data source, the Progress Data Direct Autonomous REST connector, you can build a model off of, and then you could build a data set off of that.
Great, that's awesome, Ryan. Hey, let's do one more real quick.
Okay.
Is it possible to use macros in data modules like in Framework Manager?
Yes. So yeah, if you look in here, let me just create a new calc, and I'll go into the. Here you can see you have access to all of these wonderful macro functions, and in fact, one of the I'll talk a little bit later about an actual production example of when I've used macro functions in here in the past. The one thing you can't do is parameter maps. Now, there are macro functions you can use to kind of get really close to what you did in the past with a parameter map. It's the query value function. And that is, now, if of course you're going to want to say, okay, well, how can I do that? And that's when we get into like Paul Mendelsohn territory, Cognos Paul. I know how to do some of that stuff, but like I think Paul dreams in macro functions, and so we'll probably maybe we'll have a session like a live stream. Actually, that'd be a good idea for a live stream for Paul and I to kind of go over some of that stuff. For those of you who don't know, we have a very active YouTube channel where we do live streams and we put up a lot of stuff on YouTube. So if you go to PM Square or youtube.com/PM Square, you'll find all sorts of content there related to this sort of stuff. Okay, good question though. All right, so that takes us up to the refining and enhancing the model section. So for those of you who are following along at home, I see a decent number of hands up in the chat. So this is all about, okay, we've done a little bit of data cleaning. We've joined our stuff together. We've done a wrong join right here. So we're gonna fix that. Nope, right click. Okay, so we have, we got the tables we want in. We've eliminated some stuff we don't want. We've refined the model. We've built a view to simplify, a custom table view to simplify and make our model both easier for us to manage and easier for our end users to understand. And now we're going to start refining it, adding some additional stuff to it, okay? So let's take a look at the sales data Excel CSV. And you're going to want to click quantity and unit sale price, okay? And then when you click the more button, you'll see you have the option to create a calculation. So this is going to build the, and I guess I went through that kind of fast. Let me show you again. You click the more button and then create calculation is right there. It's your first option. So control click quantity and unit sale price, and then look at create calculation. And this is another one of those situations where don't forget to rename it right here, okay? And I guess I explained why you want to do this, but I will forget to rename it and show you why, okay? So this was originally called like quantity plus unit sales price. It's going to end up being named, and you're going to want to click the X button here, okay? So let's just imagine that I forgot to rename that, and I left it like this. What will happen, and I guess before I move on, I do want you to note this calculate. I get asked this a lot. Where did calculate after aggregation go? This is where it's visible, okay? So it used to be, you couldn't do this in data modules until maybe, I don't know, 11.1.3 or something like that. You could not control when the aggregation and when the aggregation takes place, or the calculation before or after aggregation. Now you can. Buttons right there. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK here, and you'll see what it did is if you don't rename it, it renames the column unite quantity by unite sale price. And what you're going to do is you're going to go, man, okay, I wanted to call that sale total. So you're going to say, okay, sale total. Great. You've renamed it to sale total. But what hasn't happened is if you expand advanced, you will see down here that the identifier is still quantity times unite sale price, okay? That means, and if you don't forget to change this to sale total, the identifier, not just the label, it means that under the hood, when Cognos is, like when you are like typing out calculations on the fly, you need to type this, not sale total, okay? If you catch this in time, it'll be fine. But if you build a ton of stuff and then you realize you did this, you're gonna have a problem, because after you build the data module, you can change this as much as you want, and it will change how things look in Cognos, in reports and data and dashboards, which is an awesome advantage of this over Framework Manager, right? But this is what Cognos is really referring to, everything under the hood. And so if you leave this how it is here, and then you build 100 reports, now you're going to have a problem. You're going to feel stuck with this unfriendly name that you're going to have to type out if you're typing calcs by hand. So if you mess up like I did, go ahead and rename it sale total here before you have any cascading effects of having forgotten to rename it. That's why it's so important to always name your tables and everything at the time you're building them, rather than allowing the normal name, the default name, to pop in there. Okay, so you're gonna want to do the same thing, okay, except now we're gonna do quantity times unit cost. And we're gonna call this cost total. Okay. And then we're going to create sale total minus cost total. So now we're doing this is kind of cascading, right? We're doing calculations built on calculations. So same thing. Actually, what did we want to do there? We want to swap these guys and do minus. And we're going to call this sale margin. Okay. And then we'll take sale total and planned revenue and use the percentage. This is a pretty nice calculation thing that you can do here. So this is handy. We're going to call this guy plan variance. And we're going to use the percent function. To get that right, sale total, plan revenue. Yep. Okay. Now, if you switch over to the grid view, you can see these guys here, right? So there's plan variance, sale margin, cost total, sale total. So when I talked about, hey, as you're doing this, it is going to, like, you can check your work as you're modeling. This is what I mean. And I can see right away that I've got some reformatting that I'm going to need to do, right? These do not look like the way I'm going to want them to look. But we're going to hold off on that for a sec, just to show you what using the more advanced calculation builder looks like. If you click on Sale Data Excel CSV, and then the more button there, and then choose Calculation, it's going to take you straight into the Calc Builder. And what I want you to do there is copy from the website, if you're following along, revenue minus cost total divided by revenue. And go ahead and call this sales. What did I want to call this? Sales margin. Call this what is this? Profit margin. Okay. So again, that's open paren revenue minus cost total close paren divided by revenue. Now, a lot of times you would do this here, like for those of you who've done this calc a million times at home, you'd plop a times 100 in here. But we're not going to do that now, so that we can show you some formatting functionality. The other thing, while we're in here, like, this is awesome. Okay, so like this is 1,000 times better, like, than any of the calc builders available anywhere else in Cognos. Like, you can comment stuff out. Okay, and you can do things like do a preview. So it's actually gonna, like, show me what is the problem here? Calculation new of query valid token. Doesn't like that for some reason. In any case, when you click validate, what does it not like about this? Let me build it manually. Oh, I had revenue in there. My mistake. I named it, I see what I did. I named it sale total. So you're gonna wanna do, open paren, sale total minus cost total. My mistake. I apologize for that, guys. This is what happens when you feel driven to build a totally custom training for this. Divided by sale total. This is how it should look. This should so the preview, right? You can actually see a preview of your calc right here, right? So here are the columns that went into it, and here's the result. I love that. Let me paste this into chat for you guys. There you go. Apologies again for that. You can prettify this, okay? So if you write something sloppy, it will prettify it. It will take your long run-on case statement and break it into a number of rows. And you can change the size of this and put it into high contrast mode for people who you know, need some assistance seeing it, right? So I love this, this calc builder. Go ahead and click OK. And now what we're going to want to do is take a look at in the grid view, you're going to be able to see here, these are not very friendly, so let's fix them. So go ahead and select sale margin, cost total, and sale total. And you're going to want to control click the three of them and then choose the More button and Format Data. And here you're just going to choose currency. So where it says format type unformatted, choose currency. And under currency, choose US dollars. And OK. And now you can see right away, we have a much friendlier format. The same thing with profit margin. This we're going to want to be a %. So again, click here. Now you can also click up top and get this same menu. So you could also click up here and choose format data. And here you're going to choose % and OK. And now it's formatted it as a friendly percentage. So go ahead and save your work at this point. That should bring us through the creating calculations section. So the next section, add drill paths, is a pretty simple one, but very powerful. So for those of you who want, you know, drill up, drill down hierarchies, if you're familiar with transformer or DMRs, this is going to be a request you're going to get all the time. This is how you do it in the data module world. So what we're going to want to do, if you click on the Go Time Dim, expand the Go Time Dim, and then choose current year. You can see here, when you click the More button, that you're going to get an option to create navigation path. So you want to give this a name. Again, always give things names, right? Just get in the habit of every time, the first thing you do is rename it, every time. It doesn't matter as much in this case, but you still want to do it. Okay, and now you're going to expand Go Time Dim, and we're going to add in here current quarter, current month, current quarter, there we go, current month, and day date. And click OK. Now at this point, anytime someone's interacting with this in dashboard, say I build a chart that's got a y-axis of, you know, with years, they can drill down into quarters, drill down into months, drill down into days, right? Now, how can I tell I've done this? I think this is one area where the UI still needs a little work. But one way you can tell is if you click up here, you will see identify navigation path members, and it underlines the things that are in a navigation path. Okay. Go ahead and do the same thing and if you look under the retailer dim, you can do the same thing for, say, city, province, and country, or you know, retailer type, company name. Okay, so maybe and this is different from what's in your instructions, but just to show you, you can mix and match here too. So if I choose create navigation path, it doesn't have to be something that is like a logical up and down. So it could be, yeah, retailer type, and it doesn't have to be from the same table. We could go retailer type, and then retailer type name, and then company, Okay, and then maybe I want to jump to the employee name who works with that retailer. And then maybe I want to jump to the year. Okay, where's current year? Current year. And then I want to look at country code. And I call this crazy hierarchy. So it doesn't have to be something like a logical drill up, drill down, but you notice now all of those are now underlined as well. And I mean, just to, I guess, illustrate the point to show you, okay, why did we go ahead and do this? Let's go ahead and create a dashboard. You know what I'm going to do actually, because this session is getting really slow, I am going to close out of this. And I'm just going to fire up a new browser session here. Just to see if we can get things to be a little snappier. I've had Cognos open like all day, and those of you who know that sometimes when you have Cognos open all day, it starts to get a little, the UI starts to get a little slow, and it helps to restart, just come back in with a fresh browser session. So let me jump down to where I was working here and my sales analysis data module. I'm going to create a new dashboard just to really illustrate, maybe for those of you who've never used Cognos before, what this hierarchy enables us to do. So I'll go ahead and load into dashboards here. And you will see, if I just create something like, something really simple with like, where's the time dim? So I'm just going to take current year and maybe sale margin, okay? And I'm going to create a visualization out of those. And I'm just going to drag them in and drop. And Cognos actually has an AI whose whole purpose is to understand how to visualize data. So it said, hey, the right way to visualize this is with a line chart. And I say, you are correct, Cognos. That is the right way to visualize this. And I can do, turn on the forecasting if I want, and all sorts of funky, fun stuff. Actually, there's not enough data points here to forecast, so forecasting is not going to work. But in any case, so now I might look at it and I say, okay, I want to drill down from the years into the months. Okay, I right-click, I choose drill down. Now I'm going to look at the quarters. So now I'm looking at by quarter. Well, now I want to see just what's inside quarter two. I'm going to drill down in just Q2. Here are the 3 months of Q2. Maybe I want to change this to a bar chart because it probably actually would look a little better as a column chart in this case, right? At least for demo purposes, a column chart, okay? Well, now, now I'm looking down at quarter two. Now I want to actually, let's look at the properties here, or the fields rather, and, I want to color this based on, what is that called? I'm blanking on what it's called. Oh, maybe I'll color this by retailer type. Okay. So retailer type. I'll do a search for it. Yep, there's retailer type code. Looks good. Right now it's saying it doesn't think it's joined. It's probably because I pulled it out of the wrong location, which makes sense. But you get the point. You can drill up and down, that sort of thing. So let me close out of this dashboard and we will continue with today's lesson. So I think we might get this done on time. I'm feeling okay about it right now. as long as I don't go on too many digressions. Okay, so let me go ahead and edit that module I was building. So next we're gonna look at adding relative time and then a little bit of cleanup. And then I'll talk about securing modules and model inheritance. And we have 24 minutes to get it done, so let's do it. Adding relative time. Okay, once again, to add relative time, this is a little unintuitive. Once you get the hang of it, it's easy, okay? We're gonna add new data sources right here. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna navigate to the team content and you are going to choose calendars and fiscal calendar and then okay. And that is gonna add this kind of grayed out turquoise fiscal calendar to your data module. You're gonna see it here. It is a table. You could join it and do all sorts of stuff to it if you wanted. I'm gonna tell you right now, just don't touch it, okay? You don't need to touch it. There's no reason to, and you could mess up your relative time functionality. So I would leave it how it is. And what you're gonna wanna do is go to the Go Time Dim, okay? And look at day date. Is that the one you want? That is the one you want, yes. Okay, and expand the column properties. Again, you can get there, you can click here and choose properties, or it's this icon right here. You choose properties, and you see here, lookup reference, okay? It says none to start. Expand that and choose fiscal calendar. Now what that has done, if you click to expand this item, this column here, okay? Suddenly you are going to see all of these relative time filters. Those of you who have tried to calculate these for relational models in the past know how much time this would take you to do. But you can do it with just a couple clicks now. And so what this means is that when you are interacting with, say, you're in a dashboard and you've got a that line chart that I built, and I said, well, I want to see this same chart, but I want to see it for same quarter last year. All you do is you drag one of these on and it will filter that chart for same quarter last year. So really easy to make relative time in here. It's just so simple. I'm personally, I use this all the time. I know my customers do. I'm very pleased with it. The next thing you're going to want to do is if you look here in our Excel file, you can do the same thing. So if you take a look at, say, like all of these calcs, click every calc we made, okay? And look at the properties. You'll see lookup reference here. Now you can reference that Go Time Dim day date, and we have the same thing, except we have measures. So we could do current year and prior year. We could have two lines on a line chart. One line is current year, the other line is prior year. We did it for all of these measures at once, just by control clicking and doing that. So as you can see, really powerful way to build relative time. I mean, it's incredible. It harkens back to ye olde transformer days, which is really my two favorite things that Cognos/IBM ever made were the transformer power play combo, and honestly, data modules. I really love data modules at this point, and they've really they're really just incredibly useful. So that's adding relative time. Feel free to play around with that in the dashboarding tool if you want. And the final step of this section is cleaning up for consumption. So what we have here is kind of a mess, and I'm going to show you the types of things that I would normally do. So first of all, this Excel file, I mean, I'm not going to have my end users look at something that has this kind of name, right? So I'm going to go ahead and change this label to just say sales. So you can click on that and then click on properties and delete everything up to sales. Now you might want to do that here too. You might not. It's up to you, but I would definitely clean up the label. So this just says sales. You don't want to do the same thing with sales target data set, right? That's a data set name. But when I'm prepping this for end users, I just want it to be called sales target. Next, click up here to the More button next to the data module, and you'll see you have the option to create a new folder. Go ahead and create a folder and call it Retailer Tables. I don't know if you guys could just hear something loud falling on the floor above me, but my children are upstairs doing something crazy. I have a 4 and a 2-year-old, and so it gets pretty loud here. What you're going to want to do now is grab those retailer tables, so retailer, retailer site, and retailer type, and drop it into the retailer tables folder. You can see now they're hidden, and they're not hidden, but they're in that folder. And now go ahead and click the More button and choose Hide from Users. You see these are now grayed out. What we've done is this is like a WYSIWYG thing where what you see here is exactly what the end users are going to see when they are interacting with this in dashboards or report authoring. So things that you don't intend them to interact with, like we don't want them interacting with retailer type, like we don't want them interacting with these tables. We only want them interacting with the dimension view that we built of those tables. So let's hide those tables so they can't see them. That's right there how I would go about doing that. Now, the other thing I might do, and this is kind of irritating, is order all of these. And one thing that you can do, and this is kind of a world premiere I want to show you of something that we have coming here. I'm gonna have to switch environments to do it. Is Cognos Paul has been building an awesome collection of tools for you guys that we're going to be releasing called Cognos Paul's Cogbox. And what the Cogbox is going to have in it is, let me just pop this bad boy open for you. Oh, I don't have installed in this. Oh, I do have it installed here. Yes, please tell me I do. Let's edit. That's the data set. I want to look at this guy. Let's edit this data module. So I would manually reorder these, right? Because this is like not a pleasing order for them to be in. So I would maybe grab all of these guys and move them to the bottom. When you download the Cogbox, what you will be able to do is you will be able to look at this and say, click here and choose reorder query, and look at the sales query and choose ascending, descending, or magic. So that's ascending order, descending order, or magic order will go identifiers, attributes, measures. So let me click magic here, and you can see that this has been reordered for you. So I know that manually reordering data modules is a big pain point for you guys. We've created the Cogbox to help solve problems like that, and that's going to be available. It should be coming out in the next week, totally free of charge from PM Square. So do look for that. Now at this point, I would, there's a couple things I might do. I don't have instructions for it, but a lot of times at this point, I would, let's say, okay, I'm done. This is what I want to make available to my end users. I would create a data set on top of this that contains just the items from these tables that I really want exposed to end users. Like there's some in here, retailer code. Maybe I don't want them seeing that, so I would hide that, right? Hide from users. It's still useful. It's still used in these joins. It could still participate in calcs and all sorts of stuff, but end users can't see it. Well, the other thing I might do is I might take just the items I want end users to see. Like in this case, maybe there's only 10 or 15 items. I would create a data set on top of this that contains just those items so that they're going to get an even cleaner experience and even better performance. So that covers cleaning up for consumption. For the sake of time, I would normally pause here and take some questions, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you model security and model inheritance, and then we will pause for questions and wrap up. So securing models. How do you do the security here? Well, there's two ways to do it. And one is, so say this retailer DIM, I want to secure who can see what retailer. I would go into expand here. This button is going to open your sources. And then look in the schema and find the table that you want to put security on. Click the More button, so say retailer, click the More button and choose Set Data Security. That is going to give you access to the Add Data Security Definition window. You can come in here, choose Add Definition, again, give it a name, so maybe we'll call this like retailer security. And then you're going to choose a group or a role from Cognos. So this is a little wonky, like sometimes it doesn't like to load. So you might have to click it a few times, but you're going to want to choose something like Analytics Viewer, or you know, in your case, like you would have a group or a role that is like, you know, Germany or, you know, sales leaders or something like that. But, you know, I don't have any of that in this environment. So we're going to just take Analytics Viewer, click OK. And now you're going to create a mapping where you're going to pick a column and say, OK, this role, again, we're going to pretend it's, you know, the sales rep who's in charge of for golf only, right? This role, or this is that person. We're going to say that person can view for golf only. They can't view anything else. A different person can view a different one. They can't view anything else, right? That's how we would go through and do that, right? Now cancel out of that because I don't want you to actually set the security. Now, you'll notice I didn't set security on my actual table and data modules. I set it on the data server. What does this mean? This means that I just set security for everything that uses this table, all data modules that use this table. Now, that's good and bad. A lot of times people view that as like, oh, I don't like that. I only want security in this model, in this data module. And I totally understand that. But you also, in a self-service world, if you're going to be giving your end users the ability to access these data servers and build their own modules, you know, maybe you want to set it so like no matter what they do, people who aren't supposed to see the sales numbers for Deutschland cannot see the sales numbers for Deutschland, right? So it's a double-edged sword. But that kind of covers securing models, right? Now you can also like, well, I want to secure a data set. How do I do that? You can't do it through that interface. The way you have to do that when you're looking at data modules is you would actually go into the data set. So which one? Sales is our data set, right? Sales target is our data set. You would put a filter on here, okay? And actually you would do it through here. You would put a filter on here. That would be a filter based on, say, employee name, and it would say you would go into where is the? Oh, yes, it's right here. Sorry, you do via expression editor, and then you would do add filter. This brings you in here, and there is a like macro function you can write that will tie security roles, like say someone's name. So it will pull someone's name at runtime as a runtime param, and then tie it to their name in the table. So they can only see the rows that have their name in the table. And I've done that with a customer based out of Tennessee, and it's been really successful. So it's a little advanced. If you want to see more about how to do that, let me know, and I can show you. But that covers kind of securing a model. Of course, you can also use like a model is exactly like a package. So the same way you secure a folder and you put packages in that folder is the same way you're going to secure these using Cognos Security. It's no different. The final thing I want to show you is model inheritance. So if you save your module and then you click the plus button down here and you're going to go new data module and you're going to navigate to the data module you just saved. Sales analysis data module. This is the data module I just built. I choose OK. Now you can see I have a new data module, but it is built. It's got all of the elements of my previous data module, the one that I just built. But they're all turquoise and they all have this little link icon. What does that mean? It means that this is inheriting these tables from the other data module. If I make a change to those tables, say I change the table name, or I add a new calculation, or I rename a field, or I change the calc logic, it will automatically flow through to this model. You'll see I don't have as many options in here, okay? I can't do as much stuff as I could in the other one. Like if I look at, so those calcs we made, okay? These are those calculations we made. I can't edit them. I can create a new one built off of them, but I can't edit them. What this allows you to do is you create your IT data module that is built off of your DW and has got all your critical business logic in it. And you go to your end users and you say, you are not allowed to build a data module directly off the data warehouse, but you are allowed to, using model inheritance, inherit the data module that we built for you. And then you could come in here, you could add whatever you want to it. You want to add your Salesforce data to it? Go for it. You want to upload your Excel spreadsheet and join it into these tables? Go for it. These tables act exactly like the tables that we built in the initial module, except they inherit changes from the initial module and end users cannot make changes to them. Now, you will probably have noticed this break link button. If I click this break link button, well, now I can do whatever I want to this. But you can turn off in security see, now I can do everything, right? But you can turn off in security who has the ability to click that break link button. So what you do is for yourself, you service users, you build your enterprise IT module that you put all your awesome logic in and you know it's right and there are no crazy outer joins and all that other stuff. Then you tell your end users, yeah, you can build whatever you want off of this using module inheritance, but you cannot access this data source directly. You can only do it using model inheritance. And then you let them do whatever they want. And you help them out, you support them, you make sure you give them training, you get some PM square training, you let them do all of that good stuff. Run on their own, you're there to help them. But you don't have to worry about just giving them access to your data warehouse, right? Because you've built out a really great model for your data warehouse. And those other data sources that you're not going to get into your warehouse or for whatever reason, you let them do their own thing, you help them out through using this model inheritance. So that concludes the training. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm sure that there are questions. So Craig, let's have at it.
Sure. So here's a good one, Ryan. Can you write reports directly off of data sets?
You cannot. So if I go in here and I try to build a new report, unless this is an undocumented change in 11.17, because I'll be honest, you haven't been able to do this forever. So I haven't tried in a long time. So if they slipped one by me, that would be great. But if you go in here and you look if I look in my Bacon users folder and I look at, here we go. You can see that I've got a data set in here, but I can't even choose it as a source. Now, so what you have to do is you have to take a data set and you have to put it in a data module. That is kind of a pain, but I'm going to tell you that I end up doing it anyway, even if I have no intention of ever building a report off of the data set that I've made, because the data module features are so nice. I'm probably going to want relative time. I'm probably going to want, say, the custom grouping feature that I didn't show in there, and it's supportable going forward. I may not think I want to ever build a report off of this data set today, but tomorrow maybe I do. And if I've already got it in a data module, I'm in a situation where my dashboard's built off of a data module, my new report is built off the same data module, everything is in harmony.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense, Ryan. Let's answer one more and then call it a day.
Okay.
Here's the last question. Can I use Active Directory for security in a data module?
Well, yes. I mean, you can secure a data module. So if you look at the data module I have here, I don't have my Active, like I didn't hook up AD to this environment, but if I were to, look at one of these guys here, so let's look at that retailer table before, okay? And I come in here and I look in my security filter, you're gonna see I have access to the user groups and roles, and I only have the Cognos in here. That's because we haven't hooked up Active Directory up to this. If I look in my other environment, and I show you here, same table, set data security, add security definition, and I go to add, here this is PM Square's Active Directory. So here you can access your Active Directory and tie your AD groups and roles to your different data elements in a data server and data module.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great, Ryan. I think that'll do it for today. Thanks a bunch for that awesome hands-on experience. I know I learned a little bit. So just by way of wrapping here, I do hope that everyone found this conference valuable, even as we shifted to conducting it virtually. We definitely look forward to hearing your feedback. If you attended this workshop and don't have Cognos Analytics currently, if you're looking to upgrade, or if you have questions about any of the tools that you saw earlier this week, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out with any of your questions via email to contact@pmsquare.com or fill out the contact form on our website.